quick behind the scenes of Chalcot Lights for 2022. Let's start with our main control box. We have the Pi running FPP connected into a switch. The switch runs back into the core LAN, and then from the switch we also run to the three main controllers, an F48 and two F16s. So this sort of drives the heart with FPP in there, an FM transmitter that we didn't end up using, and buried underneath there is power and stuff like that. These Tactics boxes from Bunnings, they're not great, but they do the job. So let's look at some props. We'll start around the corner here. We've got this really weird little space where we've got the GE nativity. I didn't have great sequences for it, but I often found that little Jesus in the manger there worked well as an arch, and candy canes for Mary and Joseph. Of course, the alternate explanation here, for those who haven't seen it, is that this is in fact two T-Rexes arguing over a table saw. You're welcome. That's all 5-volt pixels. No problems with the pixels at all this year. And there's some holes in here that we could just run the wiring through. It was relatively easy. Same for the conduit drilled outlines. Then we have the door. So the Ice Queen flake, or whatever it's called, as well as an outline. Little conduit clip attached to some bent angle, and then the bent angle is sort of zip tied on the back. Simple sort of zip ties here. For what it is, it works. So moving out through the backyard, we've got the first of the mega palm trees. So this is 36 by 50 at roughly 180. I didn't actually measure the exact measurements. It's however far it went round the tree. Up the top we have the floodlights. One's fallen over. Those are just attached up into the tree branches, as well as then on the base of the underneath there. You can see that this palm tree has these awful spikes, which are a nightmare, and I didn't want to go. Sort of went below the spikes and above the spikes was the mounting. The strips themselves, there's like a tie down ratchet strap that's attached to the top, and then zip ties to attach to that. And we then have 3 cross brace strips, one at the top, one in the middle, and one down the bottom. Actually, this one had a 4th one down the very bottom, to try and keep everything level. That was a nightmare, because as you can see, they are all like multi-zip tied to try and keep them straight. That's something I definitely want to fix for next year. Moving along, another controller box. It's got an F16 with an expansion. It's driving the 2 trees and miscellaneous other 12-volt things around here. They're all 5-volt squares. Chroma presents. Thank you for Croydon Lights for the addition of a couple there. It was neat. My son was very happy. We then have the second of the palm trees. Same sort of thing, same sort of setup as before. So this is running off 6 outputs of 6 by 300. And basically I've got power injection tees. So the power comes in, does the first 200 lights onto a power injection tee, then to the final 100. The Chroma presents are just 12 volt connected in series back to the F16. And then from there, we run power and data to the lawn outlines. They're a little bit of a problem. I think I'm going to redo some of them next year. A lot of the pixels have sort of come out, so they kind of work. And they're just, what am I running? They're 12 volt regulated. They run sort of 2 runs of each. One sort of up that way, one going that way. Coming along, we have another smart receiver connected into the F16. This is going to run the arches at the front and the candy canes. So let's have a look at the arches. This is HDPE hula hoop running WS2815 strip, 60 nodes per meter, 5 volt. I'm pretty happy with how they've turned out. So we've just got a incoming X connect there, then the strip running in the arch, and then a self-injecting power running through the base plate here as well. So it means that I don't need to particularly power inject here, because your 5 volt power can basically run along here and along there to the end. So we've sort of got power at the 4 points through the arches. That's running off 2 ports. These worked really well. They're tied up here with fishing wire. Zip ties for lots of things, but I tried to use fishing wire where it didn't need to be particularly structural, but it could be clear. So also running off that smart receiver are these 3 candy canes, 48 node Bosco things, spray painted. They work fairly well. And I guess while we're looking, let's just take a quick look in the receiver box. So I tried to build out these standard receivers. They kind of worked in these Arlec boxes. They kind of didn't. This wasn't a full build. So 5 volt meanwhile and a smart receiver. And the intention was to also run a power injection, but I didn't need it at this particular point and was running out of time. Okay, so let's go back over here. We've got the F48 over here. In terms of what's running off the F48, we've got this running off 1 port, got the door running off the second. We've got ease of wiring, just the vertical on the wall, and then I think we have the word Merry. So let's have a look at what we've got on the front of the house. So, front of the house, Merry Christmas, Santa and 2 reindeers, a couple of verticals. What I ended up building was out of this, whatever it's called, Metal Mate angle iron at Bunnings. Build a bit of a structure. So, vertical up and across, down, one across at the bottom, one across at the top and down, and that gave me places to kind of run wires, places to then mount the props, and it worked pretty well. So in terms of attachments, then got Dynabolts up in the wall, and it's zip tied to that, but it's just resting on the ground to mainly take the weight. So those Dynabolts are to stop it blowing over. It's a little bit windy today, but as you can see, it's working fairly well. So yep, Merry Christmas, the 2 reindeer, Rudolph at the front with the painted red nose. What else is worth mentioning? Merry and Christmas, just a screwed into the some 16mm C channel. And let's see if I can get a view behind there. Basically just some nice long bolts from Bunnings with a small bit of cut up conduit as spacer to hold it out. It worked pretty well. The one challenge that I had is I only had that one attachment point, and I and S here only have the one screw, and they ended up tilting slightly. Something like the R with the 2 bolts, rock solid. So yeah, really happy with that. Happy with how Santa came out. It looks pretty good as a like even during the daytime with Santa being painted, Merry Christmas just sort of not being lit up. I'm still happy with how that looks. So up on the roof we have some chroma flakes and an outline. That needs a little bit of work, but it's kind of getting there. It was getting fairly late in the season by the time I got it up. Sort of go back to here to get a bit more of a view when you're actually viewing the show. The density on the flakes isn't super high, but you get a really good sort of, a lot of the whole house effects really work, just having that sort of filled in with color. In terms of how that's attached, it is pixels screwed into conduit, painted to match the roof, and then basically held down with magnets. In terms of the flakes, those are attached to conduit. And in terms of the ones at the back, there's more conduit running up the roof, magneted down, that's supporting that one along the back there, as well as the 2 sort of diagonal ones. The intent is that I don't have to climb on the roof. Everything can be done from a stepladder at the front of the house. That works pretty well. Coming along onto the other side, mini trees. These are 360 medium ones, I think. Painted the stars, left the tree itself in black. These guys are mounted on this setup. So it's a star picket driven into the ground underneath the hedge. Bunnings again sell these little brackets. Screw that on. It's got some holes to zip tie it down, and that holds up the mini trees quite nicely. So we've got a run of 8 of them along here, running off a smart receiver. Same sort of setup there. Couple more things pretty quickly. There is a window outline. It's 12 volts. No problems at all with new 12 volt pixels this year. We've got another window outline and a vertical, and gingerbread man. So gingerbread man have a couple of dynabolted eye holes up the top, and he's got just these plates that the wires are attached to at the back. I don't know that I'd do that mounting system again necessarily, but it worked well enough last year, so I kept it and didn't change it. Then let's do the matrix first. So there's the matrix, 48 across, 36 high. This is on one of these gates. The gate works pretty well. This driveway is a bit crap. So that is 2 sheets of the chroma mesh. They're just overlapped here. This overlap point I might need to rework, because when it's sort of slipped out slightly like this one, it's noticeable occasionally just as a bit of a line. That's mounted on hinges, and we put some timber there so we can take the hinges out at the end of the season. Similar setup to the similar setup to the Mega Tree in terms of wiring. So data and power comes in here, runs down and back, just connected to each other, down and back. Then this one is connected to a power injection tee, and then this one will run down and back and terminate here. Quite happy I've got these little end cap terminators now. Lighted up LEDs are selling them. So wiring for this, it's a little bit of a mess, I'm not gonna lie. And by a little I mean a lot. But that runs back into here. We have these cool bats that I didn't actually set up. We have a fruit bat colony that flies overhead at night. And so that's a 16, an expansion, and some power injection. Power supplies mounted vertically underneath. Sitting in a fireplace. Wasn't ideal, but it is what it is. From there, we run up to the trees. Maybe grab those from the outside as well. So, 3 of the EFL, I think, singing trees from Extreme Lighting Displays. And yeah, this mounting worked. I was a little concerned about it, maybe, that it was going to have problems in high wind, and maybe the trick is we didn't really have high wind. But so we've got some beefy brackets that are dynabolted into the brick here, and then again these connected steel frames that run up, and the trees are attached in 2 places. I think next year I'm going to try and add a 3rd attachment point with a little bit of sort of blow up the top, especially on this outer one. It is quite windy today, but yeah, they have worked pretty well. So they're just 12 volts. After some replacements on this middle one, had some older pixels that had some fixes. It's got some power injection. The other 2 haven't needed it. And that is about it. We've got the gate, we've got the door. One more thing. I've got these floods. Little 12-volt floods. And these guys are mounted on some scrap timber that is just sitting in the gutter. So that just holds them and weights them down, and they just give some fill up onto the top wall. And also we've got the permanently mounted strip. So that's running off WLED. And just lives there 24/7. Beyond that, I think we've covered everything. Got the 3 controllers. Haven't opened up the 16 over there, but you can see what it looks like. And yeah, hopefully that's useful for some. Merry Christmas. And yeah, I will hopefully continue on. This was year 2, to continue on to year 3 and do something with this big bare patch of lawn that's a car park most of the year. So if you have any suggestions, I am all ears.